So thank you, everyone, for being here on time. We are on our second session of the series for the special program that we're doing with student athletes. And today, there's going to be almost the same people as last time. You will see familiar names. You will see our other advisors, Jenny and Liz and Yandi, that are going to be there. But also have a special guest today, John Lund from Luther College, and he is going to be also giving us some content today. But I'm going to start the presentation today, and actually we are going to use our phones quite a while today. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Menti. I would like us to use that today. And the session of today, it's pretty cool, I think. It's I don't know how many of you have ever wondered about, I don't know what to study. What am I supposed to do with my life? Now, please help, right? And as I was preparing this session the other day, on the last weeks, I was thinking, putting myself again when I was 16, when I was 15 years old, and man, this was a stressful time. So I can only imagine how that can be for you students out there. So the first thing I want you to do is that go on your phones or on the screen actually on your computers, and you can put in the code. Go to menti.com. You guys can put in the code, or you can take a picture of the QR code, whatever is better for you. And when you get in, you can let me know by reacting to the slide with well, there's a heart, there's a question mark, there's a thumbs up, thumbs down, and there's a what I think it's a cat. So why do you guys throw me a cat if you are in? There you go. I can see some cats coming in. Awesome. I'm gonna throw a cat too, so I can see myself. All right, we see some thumbs up. Awesome. And then that way you can also follow along the presentation on your phones. And also you can send comments and react to the information, do a question mark if you have questions also. And I'm going to repeat the instructions a little bit later so you guys can, if anyone that has come later, but also if anyone comes later, we're going to come back to this slide a little bit later to show them that they can follow along. So, all right, everyone is in. So thank you. All right, so like I said, the topic for today is trying to help us, all of us, figure out this, the question of how do I figure out what I should do? And this is the $1 million question, I think. Every time I remember one of the questions that we tend to all us grown-ups like to ask younger people, because sometimes we don't have anything else to relate to you and say, well, why should I talk to with this 5-year-old, 7-year-old, 17-year-old? Hey, and do you know what do you want to be when you grow up? And it seems like there's a set of answers that are going to make grown-ups happy. Right? And it would tell them what? It would tell them, yeah, I want to become a doctor. I want to become a pilot. I want to become a firefighter. I want to become a teacher, right? It seems like that is going to keep them happy and do not continue with those questions. Actually, a couple of weeks ago when I was, actually a month ago when we were in the holidays and all that, I was on the table with two of my nephews, and they're about 15, 16 years old. I was running out of topics, and I asked the question, right? It was like, hey, and what do you guys want to grow up, do when you guys go into college, right? And I immediately saw their faces of stress and anxiety when I asked these questions, like, oh man, this question, like, I don't know what I want to do, right? So, and they were honest with me and said, we don't know, like, we feel lost. And that actually sparked this sort of like this presentation and see where we can go with this. And many times, what we do is we look for information in other people. I remember that in my case, I asked information with uncles and aunts, people that were older than me, cousins that were starting college, and asking, how did you decide what to go to college for, right? I asked some of my teachers in high school. I took tests, right? I took different tests and see what information I could collect. And now, let's see, this is why it's not going right. Some of the advice that I remember I've received, and I don't know if you have received similar things, some of the advice that I received is like, just be practical, just study what is easiest. I remember one of my cousins saying, just study something that is not going to starve you to death, right? Like, you're going to study something that you can actually do something with. When I would suggest what I wanted to study, I remember that some of my family members said, well, there's already too many of that professionals on that, that there's no a good job market for that. Just do whatever your parents did. Don't go to college, just start a business, and the different ideas. And some of these ideas resonated a little bit with me more than others. For example, some people ask me back questions and say, well, what are you good at, right? What are your interests? What are your passions? And I feel like, those questions, those things make a little bit more sense. So I started getting starting that question, right? So what are my interests? What am I interested in? Because I don't really know. No one ever before has asked this question to me. So I started looking into myself, and I said, what does Juanma enjoys doing? And I was like, well, I love cooking. I loved learning about space and stars. I like talking to people. I like learning English. I like learning about countries and cultures, making people laugh, singing, playing the guitar, organizing and leading people, playing video games, SimCity. I love playing SimCity. Playing tennis, board games. I'm a big fan of board games. In school, I like math, I like geography, I like civics. I read a lot about geology and history. And I made a list, and I was like, well, my interests are all over the place also. Now, let me ask you a question. Maybe you can comment on your phones. Based on my interest, and what would you have suggested me to study? What do you guys think? What would you have suggested me to go to college for? You can either put it on the Zoom, or you can put it on Menti, whatever you guys want. No suggestions? A teacher? Okay. Looks like a good option.
Sorry,
No.
what was the question again?
What would you have suggested me to study, to go to school for, based on my interest?
I don't know.
Right? Exactly. It's okay, because that's how I felt. So that's good. That's how I felt too. Now, these are some of the things that I consider. These are some of the things. An explorer, someone said, nice. These are some of the things that I thought about. Maybe I wanted to be a chef. Astronomy. I also liked a lot of geology. I considered majoring in music. I took a couple of tests that told me that I should be a journalist. Now, at the end, I ended up being, let's see, yes, an English as a second language teacher. Someone already there said teacher might have a better understanding of me than myself. But yeah, I decided to become a teacher. And I'll tell you a little bit about that story a little bit later. But at the end, it seems like we hear so many voices that we end up getting lost in a lot of the noise around us, because a lot of people seem to know what's good for us, but it's hard for us to know what's good for ourselves. So opinions matter. And I think we should always listen to other people's opinions, but knowing that their opinions are going to be shaped by their experiences, sometimes good, sometimes not so much of a good experiences, some things. And knowing also that they did this process a long time ago and time change, things and processes change. And myself, I did this process almost 20 years ago, right? So professions have changed, the workplace have changed, many things have changed. So what should we do to know what is the best option for us? Now, as I was doing research for this presentation, I came across a website that is called 80,000 hours. And this was mind-blowing for me. If you do the math and multiply 40 hours a week that one person usually works per 50 weeks a year, that is the average amount of someone who working a year, for an average of 40 years that you're going to be spending working, it's a great amount of 80,000 hours that you're going to end up working. It's years of your lives. It's a big amount of time. So I was thinking, wow, it's a big part of our lives that we end up working. So it's more pressure on us and say, well, I want to know what I want to do with my 80,000 hours, right? What is the perfect job? What is the perfect profession? What should I major in? What should I go to school for? Because it's a lot of time. Now, in some ways, it's even, it might seem many times that even people are saying, what do you want to do with your life? What is your purpose in life? And that's heavy, right? And you're saying, man, I didn't know that this presentation was going to get so deep, right? But the question is like, wow, it seems like they're asking about my purpose in life. And the other question for you will be like, how do I get to know my purpose? Especially when I'm 15, when I'm 16. And we were talking earlier before with John, like, how do you know that when you're 37, when you're 50, right? Because I think we all wonder, what is our purpose, right? So how am I supposed to do that when I'm 16? Now, I was looking at a TV show the other day, and there were two brothers, brother one and brother two. And brother one was playing a video game, and he was saying that that was his job, that he was playing that game because when he finished playing that game, then he can write a review and he gets paid for that. And then brother two said, well, you're lucky because you're doing something that you enjoy and you're actually getting paid for that. And brother one said, well, you can do that too. Just find something you like and turn it into a job. And then it was a sitcom, and then that brother two goes and tries to find things that he can do. But it was interesting for me that the advice was find something you liked doing and turn it into a job. Now, this premise, this idea says that if we should find what our passion is, because we like doing it, we're going to be successful in that. And that then is going to turn into a fulfilling life, right? A professional life. Now, parents, if you have some parents here, you might be saying, I don't know what this is. I don't know if I like where this is going, because if you're going to say, my kids, follow your passions, and that is going to turn into a job, experience have told us that many times that is not the case for everyone. Now, the problem with just following what you love doing right now is that maybe your passions is video games, and for many of you, soccer, right? And say, okay, can I turn that into a profession? Yes, you could. Yes, there's people who get paid for playing video games on Twitch. And then there's people who get paid for playing professionally for the national team and that. And I was thinking that, yes, there's stories and we feel inspired for those stories. But I was looking at some numbers actually, And I was looking at how many people actually get to do that. And not to discourage you, I just was looking for some numbers here. But I saw that the odds of you making it as a Twitch streamer are actually getting the lottery have better odds than you actually doing that. And I was looking at some numbers in some of the countries. I didn't find data for Mexico, but in Spain, for example, only 0.2% of soccer players, teenagers, actually make it into the, for example, teams like Barcelona or Real Madrid or those teams, right? So it doesn't mean that it doesn't happen, but your odds are not the best when you're thinking on that. So the thing is, many times following your passion might be difficult to get to do that if you only follow your passion on that and to become, to have a fulfilling life, because many times you might not get what you want. You might not be successful. Now, the other thing is, even if you many times do what you love, find and get what you want, it is not really guaranteed that you're going to have a fulfilling life. And I was thinking about one of the examples that I love is, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Michelle Obama. She went to school in Princeton, and then she went to law school in Harvard. And after she graduated and worked as a lawyer, she realized that that was not her calling. There was something else that she was called to do. She was very successful in what she did, but that was not her calling, right? So even when you are successful at something, there's no really a guarantee that you are going to feel fulfilled by that. Now, there's got to be a better way, right, of knowing, choosing a career, knowing what I should go to college for, because we all want lives that are passionate, that are fulfilling, that are filled with purpose, and we're happy with the life that we're choosing and the things that we want to study. Again, the question is, how do I know that when I have a hard time even figuring out what I want for breakfast every day, right? And even at 16, at 37, or whatever your age is. Now, what I like doing is looking at examples, looking at others, right? Looking at what examples do I have of people that seem to be very purposeful, that seem to be knowing what they want, and say, what are they doing, learning from them. So I don't know if you know any of these young people here on your screen. I think Greta is someone that we identify quickly. Do you know any of the others? Give me a thumbs up if you know any other, thumbs down if you don't know them at all. Do you know the names of any of them? Yeah, you know the names of them? So you know Greta, big activist, and she is about the environment, global damage to our world, right? She decided that one day at school, she was going to skip Fridays for school and go and protest at the her national congress every Friday, right? Who you have Malala, who at age of 11, she started writing her diary that many of you have read her books probably, about her experience as a young girl in Pakistan under the regime of the Taliban, right? You can see Jack here, who has the guy in the purple shirt, who has what seems to be identify a new way of detecting cancer in pancreas, all because he did a project in his science class, right? Emma Gonzalez, who is leading one of the projects on against gun violence in the United States after one of the horrific episodes in her community. And Amika, right here in the orange suit, she started a movement about how products for young girls, for women in general, that had to do with her period are so expensive. And she started a movement that was called #FreePeriods, and took her initiative all the way to the government in her country and the United Kingdom. So all of these people are doing things. They seem to be people with purpose and things that want to do with it. What do they have in common? Like, and I was trying to see what are they doing? How what can we learn from them? And one of the things that I saw, of course, I didn't ask them, but some of the things that come forth from the story is that they know they're unique. They have a purpose, and they're using that purpose helping others. And I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. They're not doing things just for themselves, but they're doing things that are helping others. So the question for us is then, how do we find our purpose? How do I even have a purpose, right? How can I find it, right? What if I don't find it? What if I found it, but I lost it? Can I find another one? Can I get it somewhere? Can I have more than one purpose? What if I'm not interested in finding my purpose, right? And I think many times asking the questions is more valuable than the answers that we can get. So I want to give you some tools so you can start getting to know your uniqueness, who you are. And I'm going to give you 5 things that you should be looking at so you can start getting to see inside so you can take better decisions. One of those, what do I want to study? The first one, and we're going to be walking through your interest, your strengths, your values, your identities, and your experiences. So to begin with, let's start with our interests. What are our interests? How do we identify what is interesting to us? One of the things that you should do is like, what things do you like doing without anybody asking you to do it? Right? What things do you love doing? If you had no other responsibilities, how would you spend your time? Right? Nothing else. What are the things that you love doing? What are the topics or the things that you find yourself reading about, learning just because you like it? What are the things, John was telling me the other day, what are the things that you find yourself daydreaming about? What are the kind of people that you get drawn to? Think about that. Now, the next thing, and we're going to come back to this idea of interest. Now, the next thing is your strengths. What are the things that people thank you for that you do because they see that you're good at? And here, I took a test. I took a test the other day, and you will do this too, also for homework. I took a test of what were my strengths, and the results for me were like, yes, this is me. It's like when you read your horoscope, right? And you're like, oh yes, this is describing me. This is exactly me. So number one, my strongest strength, right, is my sense of humor. This is what the said. And I was reading, it's like, you're playful, you like people to laugh, your sense of humor helps you connect with people, and to make situations that are hard or sad and through jokes and fun, right? And I thought, yes, that's me. Number two, perspective on the area of wisdom. You're able to provide wise advice to others. You have different ways of seeing the world, and help people make sense of things for you and for others. And it was like, yes, I love doing that. And I see people that have told me that I'm good at those things. Now, let me show you the things that I'm not good at, the things that were in the end of my strengths. I really like number 23 because it's courage, right? So it's the capacity of reducing yourself under threat or under challenge or difficulty or pain, defending the right thing, saying what you think about against opposition. And I was like, yes, I am not that person. And when I started to feel some kind of resistance, I say, no, that's fine. You do your thing. Don't worry. It was just an idea. And I was like, yes, that's me. It's describing me. But I didn't know exactly that I'm not good at that, right? But we're doing this process. I'm doing this process of getting to know what are the things that I do well and the things that I don't do well. Now, let me ask you this question. How are other ways that we can know, besides this test that you guys will take, what other ways do we have to know what we're good at? In what other ways can we know? You guys can put it in the chat box, or you can write it on the Menti also. What other ways do we have? Besides a test? Let's see. I have some questions. Asking close people their opinion. Yeah. Definitely. Others can help us to do this, right? Many times we don't see those things. We don't see because we don't, I'm not good at that, right? We say like, no, I'm not good at that. But then others can confirm those things that deep down we know because we enjoy doing them, right? We enjoy doing them. Now there's two, right? We did interest, and now we're doing strengths. Now, if you were new and you were just joining, please, you know that we're participating through our phones with menti.com. So these are the ways that you can, again, get in your code 61320464 if you got disconnected or you just joined us. Now, the other thing that you should know about yourself is your values. What are your values? And before this presentation, I didn't know what were my values until I started looking at this. Now, let me show you, if you don't have a clear idea what your values are or what values are, here's a list. What are some values? For example, personal development is a value, creativity, courage, self-love, compassion, growth, authenticity, humor. All of those are values. Now, the question for you right now that I want you to think and answer is, this last year, 2022, what were your values that drove your life? Because you have values, all of us have values. What were your values? And values help us take decisions. They tell us, like the word says, what do we find of value? What is important to us? Now, what was important to you this last year? Where did you see that? I'm going to give you mine, and then maybe you can give us yours. You can put it in the chats. So for me, it was self-love, community, and balance. You can think about one if you want. But for example, community for me. And I realized that I found myself looking for other people, family members, friends, because it was important. I set time to have conversations, to go out for coffee, and to spend time with people, because that was important for me. Community was important for me. Now, what were some of the values that you saw in your life this year? Would you like to share them with us and put it in the chat box? Maybe there's more. These are not all the values, so maybe there's more. So you can put it in the chat, or you can put it in Menti. Reconnecting with friends, yeah. Nice. Self-growth, freedom. Ah, that's pretty cool. And think about the ways that you saw those values in your life. You don't have to say those, but think about where you saw those, right? Like the example I gave, for me was community, and I saw that when I reached out to other people, right? And now the next question for you here is, in this year, 2023, what values would you like to see in your life? What values would you like to be the things that drive your life, right? The way you take decisions. And how would you like to see those in your life? For example, if I say I want to do balance, for example, how am I going to bring that value into my life, right? Setting time for meditating, for example, or balance in my time for friends. I also want to dedicate times to my parents, right? Or I want to dedicate time for school, but also want to have time. So what does that look like for you? Now, values are important because you, want it or not, we all have values. There's things that we value. Many times we value things that we might not, we should not be valuing that much, right? For example, other people's opinions of me more than what I think about myself, right? Just, I don't know, different values that might not really be what we want. Our values are important. Now, another thing that is important is our identities. We all have different identities. There's a theory out there that says that we belong to different groups. We have, where there's gender, there's ethnicity, there's a culture, social class, experiences, nationality. We all have different identities, and all of those make us who we are. And those inform how the way we take decisions. I'm going to show you mine. I'm going to show you the way I started that, because when I was doing this, I was like, I'm gonna do this for myself. So these are all the different identities that I feel that are part of me, right? And it's really cool because I could say, yes, I'm an advisor, I'm a cook, I'm an activist, I'm from Chiapas, I'm all these different things that make Juan who he is. And knowing that all these parts are important inform me. And now the last one that I want to talk about today is that your experiences. We all have experiences. It doesn't matter how old you are, you have had experiences. For example, right now I can ask you, what is your favorite flavor, cake flavor? And you know, right? You know, oh yes, I like tres leches, I like chocolate, I like carrot cake, like we all have cakes, right? But do you know how you came to know what is your favorite kind of cake? There's information that you received, right? You tried it. Sometimes you tried it and you said, no, I don't like it. You tried it and say, I really like these flavors. Now, I really like when moms, sometimes we don't want to try things, and moms tell us, well, how are you going to know that you don't like it if you haven't tasted it, right? And moms are going to be like, yes, right? But you know that you can know that you don't like something before you taste it. But you collect information. You collect the smell of it. You compare the look or the smell with other things that you don't like. For example, you say, I don't like chocolate. So you apply that information to this and say, well, maybe I don't like chocolate cake, or I don't like carrots. I don't like this. I don't like that. Right? Maybe you will smell it and you say, I like the smell. And then you tried it and you say, no. But experiences are going to be giving you information for you to know what you want, what you don't want, what you like, what you don't like. Now, let me share you an example. This is happening. Here we go. Now, your experiences give you information of who you are. Now, since secondary school, since 9th grade, Jesus loved computers, right? He, in high school, when he had to choose one of the fields that you're supposed to choose in our system, he chose computers, right? Because he liked computers. Based on his interest and likes and experiences, programming in high school, he decided that he wanted to major in computer science, right? And for college. And he was happy in computer science in his first year. But during his first year, he started realizing that what he really liked about computers, was that he loved solving problems about electrical systems. So he said, so maybe what I really like about this is not really just the computer sciences, but electrical engineering. So he decided to leave the college where he was and then move to another college and start again now in electrical engineering, where he is using his knowledge and his abilities, and definitely he's enjoying it a lot more. In the future, Jesus would like to study a master's degree in the United States. Now, his experiences for Jesus gave him information about what he wanted to study. And in his case, he wanted to change majors, right? In the system in Mexico, and we will learn that later, but in the system in Mexico, you have to drop out of school and start all over again. Now, experiences are not useful if you don't reflect on them. Every time I see a cake with a cherry on top of it, I ask for it because it looks delicious to me. Because it looks delicious. I like the color red. And many times after I try it, I remember that I hate the cherry flavor. I don't like it. But it's like after I taste it, like, I just remember I hate this flavor, right? So it's something, one of those experiences that I have not really reflected. I think I like it. And then so just to say, many times, if you don't reflect on your experiences, it's not going to be very useful. Experiences are of value when you reflect also on them. So this is getting to know you, right? Your interests, your strengths, your values, your identities, your experiences are going to give you a superpower, the superpower to get to of knowing yourself, and that is going to give you information so you can choose something that you for your major. For example, Lorena, she is a Tzotzil, an ethnic group here in Chiapas. Student. She wants to study to become a teacher. She enjoys teaching classes to the children at her church. Others have told her that she's good at it. Parents really congratulate her, and kids enjoy her classes. She believes firmly that education is the key for her community to be better. But there's challenges that nobody else understands about the education challenges in her community, and she wants to do something about it. Lorena wants to study education in the United States. Now, Lorena has information about what the values that she has, the experiences, she has gathered experiences. Other people have told her also what are her strengths, what are her interests, and she knows that she's in a very unique position also to do something of value. Now, and we kind of have always known that there are certain professions that are more rewarding than others. We have that in our heads, right? There's some things that are more rewarding than more jobs that are more rewarding than others. And when we tend to think about that, we always think about certain professions. But let me just add one more idea to this. We've known that people are happier in life when they also do something that is of value to others. And then Khalil Gibran, here you have that is like the richness, the true richness of mankind is when we do something good for the world. And then finding your uniqueness, and Larry Wingen says finding your uniqueness and use it in the service of others also is a key to a happier life. Now, when we think about rewarding professions, we think about doctors, right? We think about teachers, we think about nurses and firefighters. But it was interesting. I had this conversation a couple of months ago with my gym instructor, and she was like, I love doing what I do. Like, how come? Explain a little bit more. And she said, I love doing what I do because I love helping you guys get to your goals of health, your goals of strength. I love doing that. And it was like, wow, like she really sees her job as helping us get to what we want. Electrical engineers, I've heard electrical engineers saying, I love working on my computer, building all the systems and all that, because I know that those are going to be part of people's homes, right? And business administrations and architects and people that work in and environmentalists, all of them, they all see their work as something that also is going to be beneficial for the rest. Here you have some examples of people that have gone through Education USA. You have Diana, for example. She's doing her PhD in environmental sciences, University of Massachusetts, and she's building green smart buildings. You have Ricardo from Guadalajara, and he's competing every year with building electrical cars from scratch and competing. And he's saying, I want to contribute to a better world through electrical cars. Tami, she's from Oaxaca. She's saying that she's studying in Princeton, and she's saying, I want to teach my generation of students better practices of financial education, right? So she tells the story about how her mom kept their money in their stove, and sometime one day she almost burned all of their savings, right? So these people are thinking, I want to do something, but I know that what I do, I wanted also to have an impact on the world. And this is where I get, how do you find your purpose? Is the conjunction of your skills, what you're good at, your strengths, with what you love doing, what you really, really, really like, and also a need in the world, something that you think that should be addressed. And that's where you will find your purpose. Now, think of the person that you once were, and that's where you can help others. And I'm going to give you an example of Carla. Carla is a young lady that I've been working with the last year. She's a girl from Tabasco. After spending a lot of time with her personal challenges with depression, and after receiving professional help and tools for her recovery, now, today, she found her passion in supporting other young girls that are in similar situations that she was. She wants to create strategies. She wants to create support groups and events and network that can help this process easier, just as she would have loved to have for her in the moment that when she was struggling the most. Today, she wants to study psychology in the United States, and she's waiting for her letters of acceptances in these days. Now, we need to look inside so we can look outside. Now, it's difficult to do this at 16 or 17 years old because we don't have that much experience. We're learning. That's why this question is so difficult, because we need to find those clues and those answers and look for information in others, but we need to also understand that we have data right now. You, when at your 15, 16, 17 years old, you have some data. Now, what have you learned of you so far? What data do you have? Where is you and where is your data, your experiences leading you, right? You're going to take decisions with the information that you have, knowing that you're getting to know yourself better. When I decided to become a teacher is based on the information that I have and the resources that I have, right? Now I'm doing very similar things today as I was doing when I was a teacher, right? We are we're under construction. You should know that you should connect, know yourself, reflect on your experiences to give you information about who you are, right? But we're going to be continuing working on us. If someone had asked me when I was 17, and on that test, remember that I told you about that test? Would you like to work giving other people advice on their professional lives and academic paths? I would have said, no, I don't want to do that, because I didn't know how to do that for myself, right? Now is one of the things that I enjoy the most. Now, what I was telling you about the 100 hours, I mean, the 80,000 hours, you're going to be changing. We were talking about John, and I'm going to let John also give us some advice here. But many times we think that we're deciding for those 80,000 hours, but when in reality, we're actually just choosing for the first 1,000 or for the first 500 hours of our professional life. We're going to be changing. So our job is to learn about those experiences as we go and deciding what our next steps are going to be. Now, this is almost the end of the presentation on my side. we want to give you some practical advice. Number one is I would like you to send you out to the world and explore. Explore from the world. Now, how can you do that at 16, 17, 15? Well, get to know the world. Describe what you're learning. Reflect. Write down. I started journaling when I was 15 probably, right? And I still do it today. I have my same notebook when I write more important things, and the other one that I just write my daily thoughts sometimes, or just weekly or monthly, right? But take advantage of your extracurricular activities. Look for opportunities for you to learn through activities. Sometimes it's going to be trips. Sometimes it's going to be field trips, jobs, workshops, activities, sessions like this that you attend. Maybe you're starting a new practice, a new habit, get involved in a social project. For example, Tami, that I told you earlier, she started what is called Expo Olympiads, which is bringing science closer to the rest of her classmates that didn't have the opportunity to go for science Olympiads to other states. So she started that, and she got more than 5,000 teens in her state signed up for her project. Carlos, he was an ambassador for his high school. Talking about how his experience, he was a great speaker, he participated in many things. Today, he's a student at his University of Arizona, and he actually works at the Office of International Student Services, guiding others in the process of getting comfortable in the university. And Maria right here, she is a student from Tabasco. She has a project that is called Girls in STEM, because even since when she was in 9th grade, she realized that there were very few students in her class that were interested in science. So now she's running a project, an organization at her 17 years old, or an organization that helps young girls in her school, in her neighborhood, get interest into science. Now, through their experiences, they're finding ways, they're getting to know themselves, right? And their interests might change in the future, but they're getting to know themselves through these activities. Now, the next thing is get good at practical skills. And these are where your interests jump in. Your interests are going to inform you about what you want to study. And here's when I'm going to leave the space for John, so he can tell us how we can relate our interest to the things that we can study.
Okay, thanks, Juan. I'm not the best with technology, so yeah, and thank you for allowing me to join you tonight. What I would say is everything Juan was talking about in terms of connecting with your passions, I would totally agree with. So I've been at Luther now for 26 years. I used to be in charge of our career center, so I would help students as they were leaving to move on to graduate school and to the world of work. And for the last 18 years, I've also been responsible for international students coming to Luther. And I've been a faculty advisor as well. And so what I would say is over that entire length of time, what I've sort of discovered that is directly in lines with what Juan was saying was that the international students at Luther that I think have been the most successful have done two things. They know what they're passionate about. They've spent time thinking about that. And they've also thought deeply about the world, what the world needs more of in the future. And I think it's connecting both of those things. All of you somehow think probably that the choice of what you select for your major at the undergraduate level is going to heavily dictate your life in the future. And the reality is it is probably not. If you start asking adults whether what they majored in at the undergraduate level is related to what they're doing now, you will find that there's a great degree to which that doesn't occur. So I think what you need to do is get used to the fact that you are on a journey, and that journey starts as you think about college. The journey will continue as you sort of build your experiences, as Juan talked about, and that you are going to have to adjust and make changes throughout your entire life. The world is complex and things are changing, and I think you need to be better prepared for that. But I think what you need to do more than anything is spend time thinking deeply about what you're passionate about. And then, as I said, think a little bit about what the world is going to need more of in the future. And there's actually a really marvelous tool that you can use to do that. And I think it will be one of your homework assignments. So this tool, I've pulled up a part of the search that I'm going to show you, but the tool looks like this. It's called onetonline.org. It's run, wait a second. No, you can't see that, sorry. 1 second. So ONET Online is run by the US government. And what ONET is, it stands for Occupational Network Online. And it has over 900 careers in the US economy. I'm sorry it's US centric, but what is good about it is because the US economy tends to be sort of at the leading edge of what's happening around the world, it does provide a really good sort of tool for people to begin their exploration. What I love about ONET is it helps to answer that second question about what the world needs more of in the future. So right now, the tool is predicting job growth through 2031, and it's always updated. And what allows you to do, students, is to put in any term. Now, I've noticed over the years that for some reason, students who would come in to see me about what they want to do with their lives, it always seemed to be that they were falling along the same path. They wanted to be a doctor, they wanted to be a lawyer, they wanted to be an engineer. Well, the reality is the world does not need to have everybody doing doctors, lawyers, and engineers. That students need to think about what might be good for them. And as I said, this gives you a tool to do that. So first I'm going to show you the site, and then I'm going to take you back to an assessment that you can use that will get you some deeper information about yourself. So you can type in any search term, which is what I love. So I'm going to pick on psychologist. And then what the tool does is then what I really like is it allows you to start to dream about, when I say psychologist, what do I really mean? And then all of a sudden you can see all of the careers that are related to it. And you'll notice right away, I picked this area, is that we know that there's some big forces that are going to shape the future. And mental health, healthcare, and aging are one of those forces. Technology, big data, that's one of the big forces. And so the bright outlook, the sun, means that the US government is predicting that those occupations are going to grow faster than average. So you can click on clinical and counseling psychologists, for example. And what's great about the tool is it allows you to get a deeper description about what do we mean when we say somebody wants to be a psychologist. We all kind of, in the back of our mind, kind of know what it is. It tells you what sort of tasks are related to it. These are only 5 of them, but you can get really in depth on what those tasks are. Gives you an idea of some of the technology skills that you need. And you can see these hot technologies like Google Sheets, Microsoft Excel, the tools that you should start to be learning. The government actually puts a flame next to it to sort of indicate to you that those are hot technologies that you really need to be spending time on. It tells you what you actually do in that work. So what the work activities are. So assisting and caring for others, making decisions and solving problems. So as you read this, what you need to be doing is building a list for yourself. Are those things that I want to do? And if you start to see things that really don't interest you, and Juan talked a lot about interest, then perhaps you should be looking at some other thing. And this tool gives you a way to think outside the box. You get an idea of the detailed work activities. And once again, you can explode those or expand those if you want to see more. You can see what sort of content it is. So face-to-face discussions, pretty much every day. Spend time sitting, yeah, quite a bit. So it gives you a better idea of looking at the nature of the work, where the jobs are and sort of the titles that go into it. You can even look at training and credentialing by state if you want. And once again, I'm sorry, it's US specific. What sort of skills are required? What sort of knowledge is required? The education. So, to do this, that 43% of the individuals need to go on for a doctoral degree, that it's required. 34% will have postdoctoral training. For 22%, the master's degree is required. So it also gives you an idea with the choice of what you're thinking about doing at the undergraduate level. What is your path in the future going to be for what else is required of you? It allows you to see some abilities. So are these things that you want to do? Oral expression, written comprehension. And one of my favorite parts of this whole tool goes back to what Juan was talking about, and it's this section called interests. And you're going to see as you go through here that there's an interest code. So this area, a counseling psychologist has a code that is ISA. Pay attention to that code. And here's the reason why. I'm going to show you a tool where you can actually generate that code for you. So there's a really bright educational psychologist. His name was John Holland, He did his work in the late 50s at Johns Hopkins. And his work on career development theory is probably the most researched and most used out there. And Holland has a very simple premise to what he talks about. So basically, all individuals can be expressed by a 3-digit code, so something like ISA. All occupations have a 3-digit code, and all majors have a 3-digit code. And the greater the degree of overlap of who somebody is expressed by their code and what they end up majoring in or what they end up doing, the greater the degree to which they'll be satisfied in what they're doing. It's not a perfect match, but it's a great way to begin the process of trying to think about, what am I meant to do with my life? That's the big question here. And so the code, the I stands for investigative, as you can see, the S is social, and the A is artistic. And you'll notice that by moving those code letters around, you get different sorts of things. So if I was doing counseling, for example, a career counselor, the first letter in a career counselor code is social, that occupation has more of an emphasis on sort of the social notion of teaching, helping, that sort of thing. Whereas a psychologist has a greater emphasis on the investigative side. So, and I'm going to show you where that tool is in just a second. Talks about your values. So Juan had talked about that. What sort of work style do you want? It gives you a great way to see about wages and employment trends. Parents are sometimes asking, well, can you make a living with that occupation? This will begin to answer that question. You can see what the employment is. So 65,400 employees. The projected growth between 2021 and 2031 is faster than average, 8 to 10% growth. So once again, what you're doing is not just going after the job that has the greatest growth, but the one that is also related to who you are. And so I'm going to go back to that main screen and show you where I think your homework assignment is going to go from. So once you go onto the main site, and so that site on here again is just ONET Online, what you do is you'll click on this thing called the ONET Interest Profiler. And this profiler is based on the work of this psychologist, John Holland. And it's got a ton of research behind it. But basically what happens is you are simply going through and you are saying, for each of these 60 questions about work and activities, is that something you would strongly like? Do you dislike it? Are you unsure? Do you like it or do you strongly like it? And you're using faces to sort of indicate that. So try not to think about if or not you are prepared for that. At this point, don't think about how much money you might get at it. Just answer the question, is this something that I think I generally like? There's no right or wrong answers, so you'll be able to read the instructions. And it simply looks like this. So for example, am I the type of person who likes to build kitchen cabinets? I am not. I love to read and to research and do other things, so I'm going to kind of give it a frowny face. To lay brick or tile, not me, but for some people, they like it. Would I like to develop a new medicine? Well, yeah, I was a biology and religion double major as an undergrad. So you simply go through this, it'll take you through the thing, and in the end, what it's going to do is give you what your 3-digit code is based on this assessment. So you're going to want to write that down, because then that code you can use to match up to careers. And every, as I said, every major also has a code that's attached to it. So it's a really good tool for you to begin to start thinking more deeply about yourself. So that would be the assignment. Juan had asked me, I'm just going to take and I'm going to stop sharing the screen. Juan had asked me to talk briefly too about sort of the notion of the liberal arts. So within the US college or university system, there are over 4,000 colleges and universities, and there's a collection of colleges and universities in that group, Luther College is one of them, that are called liberal arts colleges. And it's probably one of the most confusing type of education because the liberal arts are primarily carried out in US colleges and universities and in Canada. Those are the places that do them the most. And the reason that it's confusing for both international students and for US students is that the term is rather meaningless. So it has nothing to do with the way you think of the English terms of liberal versus conservative, and it has nothing to do with arts versus sciences. So it's based on a Latin phrase, and that Latin phrase roughly translates in, would translate into the ways of thinking that set people free, the liberating ways of thinking. When I hear liberal arts, I think of freedom. So liberal arts colleges believe that we set you free to think about the world differently. And the reason is because we force you to look at the world through a variety of different lenses. So unlike places, I've been to some Mexican universities where once you get into the university, you really do to a high degree study in the specific field or area that you're in. Liberal arts colleges don't allow you to do that because we believe that at your age, you need to be set free to think about the world differently. And by doing that, we think that it exposes you to sort of a broader area of stuff. What's nice about a liberal arts college is it, in the process of doing that, I think, and this is me with my career counselor hat back on, I think it provides you with the opportunity to do a little deeper exploration of who you are and what you're meant to do with your life. I think at the age of 16 or 17, there is no way I could have, with a great degree of certainty, selected a major and decided that that was going to determine my life. Now, you can do that at other schools that are not liberal arts schools as well, but the nice thing about liberal arts schools is that our whole curriculum is really designed to help you do that. And it provides you with some really interesting parts of flexibility. So like at Luther, 25% of our students double major. And I think of our international students who are really thinking outside the box. So a student from Afghanistan who's a double major in computer science and philosophy, you can't do that at lots of places. And the reason is because he's deeply interested in artificial intelligence. And do you know that Oxford University now has a major, a master's degree in computer science and philosophy? I think of a student from the country of Georgia who is a double major in biology and computer science because he's interested in bioinformatics. There are a lot of people right now saying that if we want to improve human health, we may not need more doctors. We may need to change the delivery of the healthcare system. And so that student is doing that. We had a fabulous soccer player, men's soccer player from Brazil who double majored in business management and psychology because he was interested in trying to figure out what drives buying behavior. Or a student from Norway who is a double major in art and chemistry. And her interest was trying to figure out the dates of paintings based on pigment of paint color using chemical principles. So I only give that as a few examples. So I think it would be good for all of you to spend a little bit of time in ONET to do that profiler, write down your profile. And it's not telling you, when you take that assessment, it's not telling you what you should do. It's telling you what you might want to consider doing, knowing that it's only sort of the beginning to the pathway that you're going to take as you sort of move through the rest of your life. And I think, yeah, and it's a really good tool. So I'll turn it back to you, Juan.
Thank you so much, John, for that. I don't think I could add anything else to the presentation after that, so we really appreciate that. I just want to close up then with some time for questions. I think the last things that I had in our presentation was that when you're thinking about these I took the test and mine was ISE, I think. So go ahead and take yours. You're gonna have that. And then the last advice that we have for you is that when you're thinking about those problems that need to be solved, you can think about those, like John was saying, creatively. Like we don't all have to be doctors in order to bring changes into our health system, for example, right? There's a lot of people that are doing that through research. There's a lot of social change that is happening through music, through art, through teaching, through educating others, creating digital content. So when we're thinking of doing something of value, as we were saying, what is the need in the world? We can think creatively on that too. And with that, we're going to give you your homework. Like John said, one of the things that do the interest test that John just explained it to you about, it's in the classroom. There's the link there so you can explore that website. And the next time that you meet with your advisor, let them know what were your results, right? And what would be who you are, what would you be looking at, right? Take the strength test, the one that I showed you about that I took also, and to see what are your strengths right now, right? And the third one, if you want, you can start creating your own identity list. What are your identities? How can you become to getting know yourself better? And the idea here is just we're trying to give you tools so you can have data to have more information about yourself and what you want to take. If any of you are interested or any of the places where we took this information and how we created this presentation, we're happy to share that with you. So I'm going to stop right here and we are going to allow time for questions. Are there any questions? Any questions from John also about Luther College or me?
Me, I have one question.
Yes, please, Camila.
So sometimes, like, there's some people that are passionate about a lot of things, so it's like more difficult to choose like only one thing. So, do you have any advice or something? Because, or they're not confident enough in taking a decision. So,
Right, that's a great question. John, would you like to take the question?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I do like about the tool that you're taking based on John Holland's work is when you get your profile back with those 6 letters, it will give you an idea whether you have what's kind of called a flat profile, meaning that you find you have like there are interests you have across a whole bunch of different categories, or you may have other folks, and I'm one of those, that I'm really, really strong in a couple of them. So my profile is such that I'm investigative and I'm social, and my profile really shows that. So for individuals who have this really broad sense of interest, in some ways, I'm kind of jealous about you, because what it means is you're starting to think about what you're meant to do with your life. You're starting from this really broad area. I would go back to that same question I started with earlier, and then you have to do the hard work of figuring out what you're passionate about. So for some reason, I think students your age believe that the whole college search is figuring out how to actually do the application process and navigate the actual kind of what I would call the nitty-gritty, the tools of applying to a college. I think what you need to do is spend more time figuring out what you're passionate about. So reflect on what those interests mean to you, and then spend more time playing around with your code. So for example, in mine, my I and S are really pronounced in it. So I spend a lot of time looking at all of the interest areas that have I and S, and you can do that in ONET Online. You can search by those codes. But for those of you who are more flat across, you might want to search across all of them, and then spend time looking at the occupations and asking yourself, is that something I can see myself doing? And maybe even writing down a list of the ones that you knew coming into this that you were thinking about, and then a list of the occupations based on your sort of your new insights into you, things that you had really never thought about that all of a sudden started to come up on the list. Juan had talked about daydreams. So John Holland, who did the research on this, said that really people should pay attention to their daydreams, to write them down in terms of what they think about doing for a career, because you are telling yourself that there's something about the nature of those things that might be worth it. So if you're one of those individuals who has kind of a broad range of interests, like I said, I'm jealous. It does make it a little bit more difficult for you as you try to narrow it down into what you might want to do. But remember, the choice of what you do at the undergraduate level is not going to dictate your life forever. And depending on where you go, you can express very different things. So I was a biology and religion double major as an undergrad. And so it allows you to really kind of move in different directions. My master's degree was in counseling. So people move around all the time as their lives sort of develop.
Thank you. And I guess I would just, I totally agree with everything that John said. I would also add that, but just go and try it out, like see which one of those interests, is there a way that you can explore a little bit more those things? And maybe you can try out one of those interests and say, I really like that, or I thought I liked it, but until I tried it, I saw that, no, that's not it, right? That's not where I thought I was interested in that. And again, one of the beauties about studying in the United States is, remember the example that I gave you about Jesus and how he wanted to do something, he had to drop out of college and start a new one. You don't have to do that in the US. You can actually start college as an undecided major and have some more time. And that's where we say the time to explore and to see where your interests are. And then the other thing is that we also tell students in terms of, they think that there is the one perfect college for them. We say there's many perfect colleges for you where you could be happy. Because I'm thinking, maybe if I had chosen to become a geologist, I would have been really happy too, right? Because it was something, one of my passions, but for the resources that I have, the schools that I had available, I had to take a decision, right? But we are human beings with plenty of interest, and many of those paths are going to be good for us. Sometimes we have to take the decision based on what do we have available, what are resources that allow us to do. But yeah, there's many options. So my suggestion would be explore as many of your interests as you can, as much as your interest as you can. That's a great question. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you so much to everyone for joining us in this session. It is a pleasure and an honor to have you with us, John, too, for this session. It was a great resource for us and for also our students to get to know Luther College. Make sure that you go into the website and learn more about them and the great opportunities that they have also for students and for student athletes. So be checking on that. We'll be sharing John's contact also with you, so you can ask questions also directly to John. And remember that we're having these sessions every Tuesday night. So we will see you next Tuesday. There's homework for you in the Google Classroom. Make sure that you do that and share that with your advisor in your next session and say, hey, so I am mostly a social person with some little bit of investigative, so you can tell us what also that means for you. But yeah, so thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your night, and we will see you next Tuesday. All right? Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.